By the way, how did Liz Cheney do in it? She lost by 40 points. And then the corrupt press, they say, Liz Cheney, we believe, has a great future in politics. She lost by 40 points, the single biggest margin a congressman or woman has ever lost by in history. And then they say, we feel she has a fine future in politics. I don't think so. But January, all she does is January 6th. She's like obsessed. So here, and Kinzinger crying. He cries every time he talks, he cries. These are the people we have. But remember this, January 6th, this committee, the two things they didn't talk about, two things, was that the people went down there and you could have had over 1 million people.
Guys, I think Trump has broken Liz Cheney, right? I think it's actually official. She is losing her mind. Like, she's actually a crazy person, right? She is delusional. She's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. She's insane. She's just as insane as the radical left at this point, for various reasons, right? The first reason has to be because she believes that she actually has a shot at beating Trump in the GOP primary in 2024.
The former president said last night, you're now headed to political oblivion. You said this fight is just beginning. You've even launched a political organization already. So let's just be straight about it. Are you considering running for president yourself?
Well, what I'm going to do, Savannah, is spend the next several months completing my work in Congress, obviously completing my work representing the people of Wyoming. We have a tremendous amount of work left to do on the January 6th committee. And also, though, I'm going to be making sure that people all around this country understand the stakes of what we're facing, understand the extent to which we've now got one major political party, my party, which has really become a cult of personality. And we've got to get this party back to a place where we're embracing the values and the principles on which it was founded, and talking about, you know, fundamental issues of civics, fundamental issues of what does it mean to be a constitutional republic.
But Congresswoman, you didn't answer me yes or no.
It takes to keep Donald Trump. I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
Well, I know you didn't say yes or no, and that's fine if you're thinking about it. But are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about running for president? That's a decision that I'm going to make in the coming months, Savannah. I'm not going to make any announcements here this morning, but it is something that I'm thinking about, and I'll make a decision in the coming.
Yeah. So if Liz Cheney was actually a sane and reasonable person, the answer to that question would be no. I am not running. I don't have a chance whatsoever. And the reason why she doesn't have a chance is not just because she hates Trump and she's basically made her whole career about hating Trump, and she's also on the witch hunt committee, right, known as the January 6th committee. The main reason is that she's simply not in touch with the modern day Republican Party and the base.
All right, let's talk about a speaker, Kevin McCarthy. You clearly think this is a mistake, that he will, you are concerned about his speakership. What specifically concerns you?
Well, look, the speaker is second in line to the presidency. And at every moment since, frankly, the aftermath of the election in 2020, when Minority Leader McCarthy has had the opportunity to do the right thing or do something that serves his own political purpose, he always chooses to serve his own political purpose. And, you know, that extends to what we've seen just in the last few days with these comments about aid to Ukraine. The idea that somehow the party is now no longer going to support the Ukrainian people, which, you know, for somebody who has a picture of Ronald Reagan on the wall of his office in the Capitol, the notion that now Kevin McCarthy is going to make himself the leader of the pro-Putin wing of my party is just a stunning thing. It's dangerous. He knows better. But the fact that he's willing to go down the path of suggesting that America will no longer stand for freedom, I think tells you he's willing to sacrifice everything for his own political gain.
Do you think at all this is just gamesmanship? He just wants the Democrats to do it in the lame duck? Or do you think this is a reflection of an isolationist streak that's actually taking hold inside the Republican Party?
We certainly have isolationists inside our party. We have isolationists inside the Democratic Party as well. But but leaders have to lead. And when you have the leader of the Republican Party suggesting that we can play with the fire of isolationism, suggesting that somehow the American people will not support the fight for freedom, which is the front lines of freedom right now happening in Ukraine, the battle between Putin and Zelensky. And the notion that he would be willing to embrace that, to enable it, tells you he's just not fit for the office.
I want to ask you.
Yeah, this is exactly why Liz Cheney lost in a historic and embarrassing defeat, because she is simply out of touch. She's either out of touch or she's delusional. Because, again, there were reports out that Kevin McCarthy, if the GOP wins back the House, that the GOP would oppose more support for Ukraine. Now, do I think that Kevin McCarthy is actually going to follow through with that? No. And the reason why is because he's an establishment shield. I don't think he should be Speaker of the House. I actually hate the fact that it's a foregone conclusion that he will lead the GOP in the House. That's why I'm not that excited about the GOP taking back the House. I think the most useful thing that the GOP would do would be to oppose Biden's agenda. But I don't think that they're actually ever going to go on offense, right? And say, you know what? We're just going to actually not fund Ukraine. We're going to do what our voters actually want us to do. I don't think that they're going to do that. But, hey, he claims that they will, just like he claims that they're going to ban insider trading or stock trading among the politicians. I'm just saying, we'll see if that actually happens. But Liz Cheney is just openly saying things that, again, is the reason why she got defeated. She is drumming up the old neocon wing of the Republican Party that lied to us about the war in Iraq, right? That never seen a war or a conflict that they didn't want to get involved with, that had no problem sending our young men and women overseas to die for resources in big corporate America and the military industrial complex. She's drumming that up, right? Just like her daddy, okay? Just like George Bush. But what she doesn't realize is that that wing of the Republican Party, that wing is the reason why Trump was able to come in and basically take over the party, because that wing was not satisfying the voters. But she's trying to drum that back up as if it still exists, and it doesn't. It doesn't exist. It's gone. But she can't accept it, right? So when you come out here and you say that, well, I'm going to challenge Trump in the primary, and I'm going to keep him from winning the primary, becoming president, and then you come out here and you say this, that you don't support opposing more funding to Ukraine when the base, the actually Trump voters, the voters that you're trying to get to vote for you, don't want to keep funding Ukraine. It just shows that she is, in fact, out of touch. You're out of touch. Okay? You can't win. You are delusional. You should quit. Go get your job on MSNBC as the Trump hater that they're going to use and abuse until Trump is not politically relevant anymore. That's what you should do. And then you're going to get a job working at Raytheon or Lockheed Martin. That is what you're going to do, right? You might as well just go ahead and do that. That's your destiny, okay? And also on top of that, it's kind of funny because, again, she's made her whole legacy about Trump, right? She has to defeat Trump. She has to take down Trump, right? And that's one of the reasons why she was on the January 6th committee. And one of the goals of the January 6th committee is to try to convince Trump voters that, hey, you know, Trump was responsible for January 6th. He incited the riot, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to this country. Except Trump voters are not convinced of this, and it is clear that she has absolutely failed in her one life mission. Take a look.
On the Wyoming ballot, we know of at least two election deniers. The woman that defeated you in the primary and a gentleman by the name of Chuck Gray running for Secretary of State. I assume they did not earn your vote?
No, they will not. And I think no one of any party should be voting for people who are election deniers. And I think we have to be clear what it means to be an election denier. It means, in the case, for example, of Kari Lake and Mark Finchem in Arizona, they have both said, we've looked at all of the facts. We've looked at the results of the election in 2020. We've looked at the law. We've looked at the fact that the courts all ruled against Donald Trump. We've looked at the audits and the recounts. We are willing to ignore all of that. And we are saying we would not have certified that election. They're telling you that they'll only certify an election they agree with. And that there's not much graver threat to the democracy than you can imagine.
Mastriano was at the insurrection, and he was photographed breaching one of the restricted areas. Is that okay?
Which area? Because I saw a video where Capitol officers
Yes.
were taking away barriers and unlocking
Opening
doors for
doors.
people. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
They opened the gates
So
and
it
let them
shouldn't
in.
be disqualifying for an elected official
No,
if
definitely.
they
as long as he
participated in
didn't-
January
he
6th.
didn't strike anybody. He didn't hurt anybody.
And the only one that died was a protester there, not a Capitol Police
Unarmed
officer.
female veteran was
That's
shot
the
by
only one that
police.
died.
That's the only one who died.
A police officer did die.
No,
He
it
died
was
of
a
heart attack.
stroke.
That's
That's not on site.
Caused by that. That's because
Right.
he shouldn't have been a police officer. It was one woman.
So
who was
what do
shot.
you make, though, overall of January 6th? I mean, it was, watching that footage, it was pretty disturbing. I mean, there were people throwing excrement at the walls, and it was it's the Capitol.
It looked a lot like Antifa's
Yeah,
actions
it looked
to
a
me.
lot, except on a much smaller scale. It looked the same as the Black Lives Matter riots.
That's what I saw, the
Every single
similarities
city
to
around
be.
the country, not just
Minneapolis
one.
burns. Kenosha burns.
But so it's okay just
Waukesha
because
burns. Like,
one side that you
No,
disagree with?
I'm
it's
saying
okay
Antifa
for-
Well, if
infiltrated.
it's good for one, it's good for the other.
Anybody
I don't
who
see it
harms
that way.
anybody who caused property destruction, that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah,
but if you're
on
there
either
making
side.
your voice heard at the
Right.
people's house, no less,
Yep.
that's, again, it's a fundamental constitutional right of an American citizen. And people should not be being held political prisoner because of it.
For misdemeanors. That's East Germany.
That's East Germany.
Tactics.
Yeah, that's what's scary.
It was an actual fiery but mostly peaceful protest. And the other ones that were the opposite.
Was the protest legitimate in your
Our
eyes
administration,
because...
I feel like, is using it as their Reichstag fire.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're using it as.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that President Trump could have quelled the violence that day?
Not him
don't
personally.
I don't
think so,
I
no.
don't think so.
It started while he was still speaking. I was actually there. I was there to see what I thought was going to be the last time I ever saw Trump in Little Diana.
So did he tell everybody to go and start rioting?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and it actually, I stayed for the whole speech, like a ton of people did.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all headed to the Capitol because he said, let's go to the Capitol and peacefully let our voices
keyword.
be heard. And we get to the Capitol and we're like, what the hell's going on? Because it had already happened.
I'm pretty sure I saw Democratic operatives instigating people to cross
totally.
barriers.
That might be one of my favorite clips of all time. Like, for real. That clip right there is for the books because MSNBC heard exactly what they did not want to hear, okay? Trump voters that came armed with rebuttals to the mainstream liberal media narrative about January 6th. Which, again, is proof that the January 6th committee hasn't worked because the January 6th committee, the whole point of it is to convince people who are not convinced that January 6th was the worst day ever and that Trump was responsible, that is in fact the case. And that has been Liz Cheney's only political goal since January 6th happened. And it's clear that it's a failure. It's clear that nobody cares about January 6th, right? Nobody cares. You have not convinced anybody of anything when it comes to January 6th that they didn't already believe probably 2 or 3 months after it happened. Like once all the smoke cleared, okay, and more facts and evidence came out that, hey, maybe there's a little bit more going on here that meets the eye. I think people are just kind of stuck in their ways in regards to what they believe about that day and what happened. And Liz Cheney, again, has failed to convince them otherwise. So other than that, what has she accomplished? What has she done? She hasn't done anything. Right? And I think that is the reason why Liz Cheney, her career is done. This is the reason why she's insane. I think she's actually losing her mind because she knows that what she's doing is not working. And for whatever reason, she still believes that she can beat Trump. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. At most, what she can hope for. And she might actually have a shot at this, is to run third party during the 2024 election and try to take votes away from Trump, from the right. But again, I'm not even sure that can work because I don't think that 1% of the Republican Party would vote for Liz Cheney. I really don't. I don't think that they would. I really don't. But again, you got to understand, there probably will be millions, hundreds of millions of dollars poured into a Liz Cheney campaign just so she can play spoiler. I think that is what she's actually gunning for. At first, I was like, maybe she's going to try to become a Democrat. No. I actually really think that her grand plan is to try to run as an independent, try to play spoiler, try to get votes from the right, get hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign donations from the Democrat establishment, the mainstream establishment, and hope that that's enough to keep Trump from winning. And then the liberal media will praise her as some type of hero, right? And we'll all forget about her legacy, in which both the right and the left hate, which is that she comes from a family of warmongers. That, to me, in my opinion, has to be her grand plan. Otherwise, she's delusional. But it's probably both, right? That probably is her grand plan, and she is, in fact, insane. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.